Good evening and thank you for joining us. A gondola accident in Kowloon Bay today left a worker suspended mid-air for more than an hour outside a building. The worker was later rescued by a fireman. A workers' rights union said the man did not fall to the ground thanks to the safety harnesses. The dramatic scene unfolded at around 9 o'clock in the morning. The worker dangling mid-air outside the building on Wang Hoi Road in Kowloon Bay. The building maintenance gondola failed to stop around the 6th and 7th floors where repair works were ongoing, but descended to the platform on the 3rd floor. The worker fastened to a safety harness was left hanging mid-air. The fire services department rushed to the scene, unfurled air cushions on the 3rd floor platform, and sent a firefighter to extricate the stranded worker. He tied the worker's torso with a rope, making sure that it was secure, then signaled his team to slowly lower the worker back to the platform. The worker, unscathed, did not require hospitalization after being examined by paramedics. Authorities cordoned off the site to investigate the cause of the machinery failure. A construction industry veteran believes that, given the slow descent of the maintenance gondola, the accident this time may involve mechanical failure or improper operation. Lo Xing-tong, vice president of the Hong Kong Professional Gondola Association, said it's possible that when the button on the control panel was pushed in, it failed to bounce back, so the gondola kept falling. The Association for the Rights of Industrial Accident Victims said it is fortunate that the worker was buckled up to an independent safety rope with a full-body safety harness this time. They remind that the anti-fall buckle could be life-saving. There have been multiple industrial accidents involving construction gondolas in recent years. Last year, 2 male workers were rescued after being trapped mid-air for more than 2 hours after a gondola malfunctioned at the private housing estate in Union Square around West Kowloon. A more serious case in 2020. 2 workers plunged about 20 floors to their deaths as their gondola fell at the luxury housing estate on Conduit Road in mid-levels on Hong Kong Island. A ferry service vessel carrying over 100 construction workers crashed into Central Pier No. 9 while docking this morning. 34 people were injured. Samantha Lee reports.
Most of the injured passengers were able to disembark from the ferry without assistance. Some sat at the pier and waited for paramedics to arrive. Passengers with serious injuries were carried off on emergency stretcher beds. Passenger Mr. So said only his knee was hurt, but he saw many people were lying on the floor after the ferry crashed, and a lot of them were bleeding. This passenger said people sitting at the front of the ferry were thrown out of their seats during the crash. At around 7 this morning, the ferry, the Choi Wah ferry surface boat, was carrying more than 100 construction workers from Tsim Sha Tsui and was heading to Central to pick up other workers. It was planning to travel to a Hong Kong electric construction site at Lemma Power Station. The ferry collided with the pier when docking, injuring 34 passengers, who were later sent to 3 hospitals, including Queen Mary Hospital. One of the injured people suffered back pain and numbness in his hands. About 80 passengers managed to emerge unscathed. Kern Pui Man from the Marine Department said there had been no issues in terms of overload as the ferry is able to carry up to 178 passengers and only 118 were on board at the time. He also said the department will investigate the structure of the ferry. The police suspect strong waves might have caused the crash. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
St. Francis University has officially become the city's 2nd University of Applied Sciences after going through government vetting processes. The city's first Catholic university was granted the new status after a 7-month wait. The The newly minted St. Francis University, or SFU, was conferred a university title in January 2024. In the 2024-25 academic year, SFU offers 2 master's degrees, 13 bachelor's degrees, and 4 higher diploma programs, with about 3,800 full-time and 800 part-time students in total. The Education Bureau said that it has gone through institutional reviews by the Hong Kong Council for Accreditation of Academic and Vocational Qualifications and fulfilled all relevant criteria.
Today, after 39 years, we have changed a lot, and those changes are respond to the changing social needs of Hong Kong. Courses include computing and ICT technology, nursing, physiotherapy, dispensing, social work.
SFU was formerly known as the Caritas Institute of Higher Education. It marks the city's second applied science university. Metropolitan University was Hong Kong's first. The government has earlier earmarked $100 million as a startup fund for universities of applied sciences, which start operations this month. SFU has to submit progress reports to the Education Bureau annually to ensure further development of its competency. The value of retail sales in Hong Kong in September fell by 6.9% year-on-year, according to provisional figures released by the Census and Statistics Department. September retail sales were valued at $29.6 billion. Online sales accounted for 10.4% of the total, and a decrease of 11.8% compared with the same month in 2023. The revised estimate of the value of total retail sales in August 2024 decreased by 10% compared with a year earlier. For the first 9 months of 2024 taken together, the value of total retail sales decreased by 7.6% year-on-year. A government spokesperson said the retail sector will continue to be affected by a change in local and mainland consumption patterns. However, a recent mainland stimulus package and future U.S. interest rate cuts would help to boost sentiment and support increased spending. Financial Secretary Paul Chan, who has just wrapped up his Saudi Arabia trip, said he is cautiously optimistic about Hong Kong's economic outlook and that there is no need to revise the full-year economic growth forecast. Regarding the rise in negative equity cases, Chan said the property market needs time to digest the impact brought by the start of the interest rate cut cycle. Danny Zhou reports.
Hong Kong's economic growth has slowed during the last quarter. The city's gross domestic product recorded a year-on-year increase of 1.8%, the smallest growth rate since the second quarter of 2023. Paul Chan said he was confident that full-year economic growth will meet the forecast from the start of the year of 2.5 to 3.5%. Chan indicated the present growth still falls within this range and that he's cautiously optimistic about Hong Kong's economy. More than 40,000 cases of negative equity involving property owners were reported over the third quarter due to the recent decline in property prices. The finance chief says the interest rate cut cycle is only just beginning. He believes the rate cut would be beneficial to the overall economy, but it will take time for the property market to absorb its impact. Meanwhile, the government has been making efforts in soliciting business and attracting investment. Since late 2022, it has attracted around 100 key enterprises and welcomed 15,000 talented people to the city. The move is expected to drive up property prices and rents. Chen said they could be potential buyers in the property market as long as they settle down in Hong Kong. He also stressed the government will enhance its initiatives to attract more businesses, professionals and tourists and tell the world good stories of Hong Kong, which he said would generate positive impacts on its economy. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
In the first half of next year, the police will start issuing fixed penalty notices against traffic offences electronically. To complement the policy, the Transport Department will begin collecting the email address or mobile phone number of 2.6 million vehicle owners and driving license holders starting November 18th. They will be asked to provide such contact information when applying for or renewing their licenses at the Transport Department. During the initial phase, the police will issue both e-tickets and paper form parking tickets. The force added they will roll out a dedicated website and a mobile app to process the fixed penalty notices with new payment methods of fines, including via credit cards or FPS. 3 men were convicted of assaulting police officers and common assault for using water guns on officers and reporters during the Songkran Festival last year. They were each sentenced to 28 days in prison. The court heard that in April last year, 3 auxiliary police officers and 2 reporters from Television Broadcast Limited were sprayed by the 3 defendants. The lawyer of 27-year-old Zhang Weixing said his actions at the time were for his YouTube channel, and he underestimated the consequences of his behavior. In sentencing, the Kowloon City Magistrates Court judge said, in view of the serious nature of the cases, imprisonment was the only suitable option. He added the 3 defendants did not plead guilty, so their sentences would not be reduced. Welcome back. Spanish authorities said the death toll from devastating floods is likely to rise as rescue crews search for more victims. At least 158 people have died. Nasri Karim has more.
High over flood-ravaged Valencia in Spain, a rescuer spots people in need of help. This man and woman were among some 70 people rescued in Valencia by helicopter from rooftops and cars in the region devastated by some of the worst floods in Spanish history. As the floodwaters receded, the extent of the damage was revealed. It was as if a tsunami hit this eastern coastal area, which took the brunt of 20 months' worth of rain in only 8 hours. Cars piled on top of each other, some victims reportedly still inside. Authorities say hundreds may have died this way. Roads turned to muddy swamps, and people left to count the cost of losing their loved ones and property. A number of bodies were taken out of this basement. In Madrid, King Felipe VI observed a minute's silence in honor of the victims. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez urged people to remain at home, saying the priority was finding the missing and ensuring survivors have access to adequate aid. Around 4,000 personnel from the military emergency unit, National Police, Civil Guard and Army have been deployed in rescue efforts involving 335 vehicles, helicopters and planes. Cleanup efforts have already begun. This man said that everyone in the town of Massanassa in Valencia was caught completely by surprise. It was not even raining, he said, and then suddenly it was an avalanche of water that flooded absolutely everything. Experts are blaming climate change, saying it will only get worse because of continuing emissions from the burning of fossil fuels.
I've heard people saying that this is the new normal. Given that we are currently on track for 2.6 degrees of warming or thereabouts within this century, we are only halfway to the new normal. And we know that events like this are going to get more extreme and more frequent as the world continues to warm.
For those in Spain, the nightmare is not over. Some 150,000 people in Valencia are without electricity. Damaged roads and interrupted train lines have left the region partly isolated, and people are lacking fresh water and basic supplies. Nasri Karim, TVB News.
Donald Trump supporter Elon Musk is being sued by Philadelphia's district attorney for his controversial $1 million giveaways to registered voters. But the lawsuit has been put on hold by a judge. Meanwhile, the presidential candidates Donald Trump and Kamala Harris continued their campaigns to lure in undecided voters. Tracy Furness has more.
Introducing Kamala Harris in Las Vegas, Nevada, was Jennifer Lopez.
I am an actor and an entertainer, and I like Hollywood endings. I like when the good guy, or in this case, the good girl, wins.
Although Lopez was born in New York, her parents are Puerto Rican. She hit back at the remarks made at a Trump rally earlier this week, where comedian Tony Hinchcliffe called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage.
You can't even spell American without Rican. This is our country too, and we must exercise our right to vote on November 5th.
Earlier, Harris, traveling through Wisconsin, hit out at Trump's comments on how he would protect women, whether they like it or not.
And it actually is, I think, very offensive to women in terms of not understanding their agency, their authority, their right and their ability to make decisions about their own lives, including their own bodies. Whether he has said, as he has, that women should be punished for their choices.
Trump was traveling to New Mexico and Virginia in the final days of his campaign, a risky detour from the 7 battleground states to spend time in places where Republican presidential candidates have not won in decades.
Thank you very much, New Mexico. What a good place. Thank you very much. Look, I'm only here for one reason. They all said, don't come. I said, why? You can't win New Mexico. I said, look, your votes are rigged. We can win New Mexico. We can win New Mexico.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The United States has restricted visas for Chinese students and academics in specific fields, citing national security concerns. Some international students believe that people-to-people exchanges between China and the U.S. are important, but they may be hindered by unilateral measures from the U.S. in the future. Trevor Lee reports from Berkeley in California.
Stepping onto an American university campus is like entering the United Nations, as the saying goes. At the University of California, Berkeley, 1 in 6 students comes from overseas.
If you put yourself out there, you can definitely start working and talking with a lot more students from other places as well. So during my freshman year, especially dorm life, you get an opportunity to talk to people with lots of different backgrounds, and I feel like the opportunities are very good here.
Currently, there are about 1 million international students in U.S. higher education institutions. California has the most, with 150,000.
Students that live here are competing against everybody in the world for a spot at Berkeley.
Chen Shuqi from Beijing is currently enrolled in a dual degree program jointly offered by the University of Hong Kong and UC Berkeley. She spends her freshman and sophomore years in Hong Kong and the junior and senior years in the US. She says international exchanges are important for her personal growth.
I think it's very important for us to open up our horizon and mind to embrace new things, new issues, and new cultures.
President Xi Jinping said last year in San Francisco that the hope for China-US relations lies in the people. The foundation is in civil society, and the future belongs to the youth. When Xi met with US President Joe Biden at the time, they agreed to expand youth exchanges. There was a brief expectation that China-US relations in academic exchanges would improve. But in 2020, Trump signed an executive order banning certain students and academics involved in strategic technology fields, such as semiconductors and artificial intelligence, from obtaining visas, citing national security concerns. It's reported that over the past 3 years, more than 5,000 Chinese students and academics have been denied visas or deported as a result. The order remains in effect today. Chen believes even if the Republicans and the Democrats are different, their views or policies might be similar.
I think it's definitely better and more beneficial to open up to people who want to study or live there, live in the U.S. or other parts of the world. Yeah, but I think after studying U.S. history or politics here, there's really a lot of complications here.
The United States restriction on student visa mainly affected Chinese postgraduates and doctoral students, and also exchange scholars. As for undergraduates, as some of them have not yet chosen their majors, they are not affected as much. Trevor Lee, TVB News, Berkeley.
Back locally, a childcare institution called Children's Residential Home shocked the city after it was involved in a number of serious child abuse cases in 2021. Dozens of staff members have since been found guilty of child abuse. Hong Kong Society for the Protection of Children, which is affiliated with Children's Residential Home, conducted a survey and found that over 75% of the public lacked understanding of child safeguarding. Samantha Lee tells us more.
The Hong Kong Society for the Protection of Children surveyed 1,000 members of the public and 400 employees working in children's entertainment and leisure sectors from May to July this year. Results found that 75% of the public and 67% of employees had limited understanding of child safeguarding, which means measures to protect children from harm, abuse, neglect, and exploitation.
Only about 1/3 of the child-related employees had attended any staff training about the child safeguarding. So they, without any training, they may be unaware of the existence of importance within their organizations.
The society suggests organizations should provide employees with clear codes of conduct and guidelines for handling suspected child abuse cases, as well as ongoing training to equip them with up-to-date knowledge and skills. Commenting on the child abuse incidents in the children's residential home in 2021, Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Soon said the government has zero tolerance against child abuse and has already subsidized the society to use artificial intelligence in CCTV installed inside the facility to monitor and identify any misbehavior. The director of the society said the AI-equipped CCTV will be in use by the middle of next year.
This system will help to detect 3 major misbehavior, like slapping the body of the child, slapping the head of the child, or shaking.
The Hong Kong Society for the Protection of Children also calls for the expansion of mandatory sexual conviction record check to employees in children's homes and disabled people's homes. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.